Welcome back to Autonomy Quest. My name is James Cordiner. I'll be the host this evening, and we're going to be meeting our featured graduate, Mark Raintree. Mark Raintree is a California native. He's a seasoned entrepreneur with a diverse background. Despite leaving college to pursue his passions, Mark has successfully built a profitable IT business with his wife that has thrived for over 30 years. He also runs an investment real estate business. He is a dedicated musician and enjoys woodworking, bicycling, and volunteering for libraries and live music events. A devoted grandfather and a permaculture enthusiast, Mark is known for his over-enthusiastic teaching style and commitment to community enrichment. So without any further ado, let's bring in Mark Raintree and let's have a little bit of a discussion. Mark, how are you today?
Doing well, doing well. A little sore, but otherwise fine.
Yeah. Oh man. So tonight is our goal is to try to get to know you and get to know your experience through autonomy and to help some prospective students to overcome whatever obstacles they might be facing that could be holding them back from enrolling. And so just for the record, before we get started, at the end, stick around because there'll be for everyone listening, there'll be some links and some nice little goodies that you can take with you on your way out. So I would like to start by just asking you, Mark, about a little bit about yourself before joining Autonomy. What was your life like before joining Autonomy? What was your dreams? What were your ambitions?
Well, born in Sacramento, moved to the land of opportunity, Silicon Valley, Santa Clara, when I was I think about 17. The want ads section was huge. And so that looked like a great place to get going. My roommate at the time agreed, so we both went down there. I'd been working for Sears Roebuck doing display kind of stuff in the store. So that was a lot of fun. There's a lot of interior design kind of things and assembling all those tool displays and so forth. I'd worked for my father on cars before, so it gave me kind of the troubleshooting background process. And then when I moved down to Santa Clara, first started out at first job, want to get into computers, only actually really want to get into electronics design because I play guitar and I want to be able to affect the guitar sound. I wanted to start making my own distortion boxes, fuzz boxes, what's not. And so I opened up the paper and found, let's see, electronics jobs. Assembler, that starts with an A. That was a boring job. But it was assembling relays for uh, satellite instruments. And I learned how to, this machine that they stuck me on, got real good at it, and moved on to the next one. Pretty soon I was creating forums to show how much throughput was going, as I was getting kind of bored. You know, they'd let us listen to music at work, which was nice. But I just wanted to start working on things. That was my nature. I was the kid that took everything apart. My parents were real happy when I started learning how to put them back together again. So uh, that was the beginning of it. A couple of different jobs. Ended up landing at a company called Disk Copy Labs. It was disk duplication. So we made all the thousands, millions of copies of disks that would get sent out with the packages for Apple or IBM or all these other games, and word processors, all kind of stuff for software. And the robots that we used were real simplistic robots, but I would start tinkering on them to get them to work properly. They basically would take a disk off the stack, get it in the drive, program it, and then either accept it, reject it. So I taught myself how to work on those. Pretty soon the company had invested in me. They hired several different coaches to teach me how to align with oscilloscopes and electronics devices and set up base line mediums. And when I left that company, I had 3 people working for me in a hardware support department that didn't exist before I started. So it was a lot of fun. We fixed everything from the robots to the computers to the forklift to the toilets. Whatever broke, we fixed it. And left them to go work for the company that made the robots. That was a blast. That got me traveling. They put me out on a plane with same oscilloscopes and toolkits and so forth to go put on seminars over the weekends. A group of 50, 60 people all coming usually from using these robots. So I would teach them, start out with the really exciting concept of magnetic media theory, and then eventually into not only how those floppy disks work, but how these robots work, how they break broke down, most common, and therefore how to fix them, how to test them, and so forth. So it was a lot of fun. Met some people, was pushing beyond my normal reticence. I started out a life as an introvert, but wasn't getting very far. So I pushed myself out to get things happening. Figured that out young, going after the opposite sex when I was a teenager, and then eventually in the work world as well, just going out and doing things and saying, hey, I can do this, that. So I learned a lot of sales techniques through that. I did tech support for a while. My earlier studying as an architect, my handwriting went out the window, and I was trying to keep up with my thoughts. Eventually they merged with their competition that I didn't get along too well. So I left for another company. They laid me off, and that was actually a blessing. I went to work for a friend who'd come out of that company, had his own computer repair business in Santa Cruz. I'd moved to Santa Cruz a while back because Santa Clara is just too many people. And I worked for him for a couple of years, and he sold his business. I started with the new guy that bought the business under I'll help you get started for the next year, but I have my own business. I was slowly building up a consulting business. I learned a lot of lessons of that. That was real interesting. Started out at $35 an hour, and it's like, people don't take you serious. I had jumped to $50 an hour. Now I was a little bit taken a little more seriously. And as my rates went up, people respected me more. It was an odd lesson, how to price myself higher, even if I didn't feel quite like, do I really deserve this? But it built up. So I worked for that gentleman off and on for a couple of years, and was building my own clientele, as I said, and eventually had about between 30 and 40 clients in the Santa Cruz area. Santa Cruz, Watsonville, Silicon Valley, all up and down. And every once in a while I get flown out to Boulder, Colorado to go work on computers there for one of the clients that had an office in Felton. And then over to Hawaii, one of my clients, they had a vacation home, wanted me to fix their computer and give me kind of a week off. It was very nice of them. So it was a lot of fun. It was that I basically started adding whatever things I wanted to learn to it. So I, besides just helping people with software, working on things, I was building computers and troubleshooting them, building servers, taught myself a lot of programming, number of different programming languages, got quite good with Microsoft Access Basic and Python. I've got programs that are actually still being used today that I wrote 20 years ago now. Very fulfilling. And everywhere I want to learn. Now I sell and support telephone systems, security camera systems. This is all based on a lot of the same kind of knowledge and same troubleshooting steps I use that my father taught me working on cars when he was a car mechanic. And I would hand him tools and so forth. And he had taught me the whole troubleshooting process. So that was where I was heading. And let's see, learned about the rich dad stuff. So when my wife and I got started, we've been investing in real estate ever since then. Multifamily properties seem to be best for us, although we've got a couple of single family homes, but that'll be our retirement plan in the long run, is passive income from those. Always have a property manager. It helps buffer, between you and the tenants. You don't have to deal with toilets in the middle of the night and all that fun stuff. Business has been going strong. We've let's see, I was learning, I was going through a lot of different communities. I'd gone with the Tony Robbins class with Dean Graziosi. I'd tried out Harv Eker, T. Harv Eker, a number of different, Wealth Factory, a lot of them. And with Unloose the Goose folks that came out of John Bush and Jack Spirko and so forth, and Nicole Sauce, they spoke at a D3. And that's where I heard this guy named Richard that had an interesting message that he was talking about. He was mentioning autonomy, and he'd mentioned the trivium. And my eyes lit up when I understood from what he was saying that there was an actual way to think, a proper way to come up with truth. And that was what got me going. I called in to do the interview process, talked to Lisa Manfredi, wonderful lady. And she talked me into it. I knew I wanted to do it, just wasn't sure I was ready. And she gave me the impetus, the push to get me going. So I signed up probably about the middle of season 5, and then just speed jammed through most of it, graduated with the rest of the class, and then took, I think, season 6 right back to back. One of the really cool things that I loved about autonomy was the idea of a lifelong membership, because I love learning. and I'll teach to see how much I know. Can I get the information across? Are people understanding? Am I seeing the light go on, or I'm seeing the eyes glaze over? Uh, so it was a definite win to have lifetime access. The classes were intense. It was fun. It was I heard the metaphor over and over again about a fire hose, and I would definitely agree. There's a lot of information coming, a lot of material. I'd come from a background as one of those weird straight A students who would skip school to the point where I was getting Fs and I had to GED out early. And that's when I went into college, just to get out. I thought I was going to be an architect. It was kind of boring. Went into the work world and got into all the things that I mentioned. But with the autonomy, it definitely was a stimulant to the thought process, the things to explore. There's so many different topics being brought up, so many other subclasses going on. Once you get through the core material, which is quite a bit up front, and I had to go through it several times just to get. It's kind of like I had that saying about you never step in the same river twice, because you're a different person. The next time you listen to something or watch something or partake of something, you may have more experience. I have more experience, and now I'm seeing different sides of it, different aspects, or something that I might have missed the first time or applied it in a different way. So I found that invaluable. And then once you're in the community, there's so many other things going on that are involved with autonomy, more things to get interests into, and different avenues. And that's before you even start talking with all your fellow students. I built a really tight core with a number of the season 5 and some of the earlier season 4, season 3, even season 1. There's a gentleman from Germany. We check in weekly now, see how each other's doing, kind of hold each other accountability type of thing, as well as just checking in and seeing how you doing. Are you getting enough sleep? Those kind of real life kind of things. It's a strong core group that I'm happy to visit once a day at a minimum, just to check in, see how people are going, offer help, ask for help. Big help with the type of people that get attracted to autonomy is the integrity, the communication. We learn quite a bit about proper methods of communication, or things that I'm not doing now, which is like listening. So quite a bit there.
Well, that's great. You feel free to go on a run if you need to. I mean, just take it away. Everything that you've been saying is just honestly just so great to hear. And you sounds to me like you had a pretty accomplished life before joining autonomy, and that's interesting because there's a weird kind of I don't know, difference between you and I, and it's a weird dynamic to be in, and it's just like really interesting to hear you explain what you had going on in life before, and it just, I don't know. You answered like 3 of my questions. so, so it's like, what do we do now? Okay, here's what we do now. I want to know if there was something that you expected out of autonomy. No, that's not the question. The question is there something that really surprised you about autonomy? Like, you had your expectations before joining. After enrolling, after joining, after getting comfortable, is there something that like really just kind of, surprised you just out of nowhere? And you're just like, geez, I didn't know I was going to get this by coming here.
Well, there's quite a few different topics that came up and turn into further research, either with groups. There's a lot of there seems to be a lot of ad hoc joining up of groups that people get interested in certain things. Book clubs start up. People who are investigating different concepts, mythologies, trying to prove why flat Earth is true or false, or having fun with some of those topics that are usually seen as people don't want to talk about it. One of the things that is very helpful. I refer back to, it self-sorts to people who have integrity, people who are willing to put themselves out there and willing to listen and willing to talk and explore something, even maybe things that aren't as comfortable to someone or something. Or maybe I didn't have the groups in my other social circles that I could discuss certain topics or aspects of things. So it's worldwide. I've made friends in the UK and Japan and Australia through autonomy. And like I said, the gentleman in Germany, Canada, and many of the several states, the United States of California, of America. Um, so I'd say that the aspect of being able to explore a lot of things after the core material, the first course material. And again, I had to go through it a couple of times. I wanted to go through it a couple of times because there's just a lot. It was coming pretty fast. Um, I found it's very similar to how I'd changed myself in school, where instead of being at the back of the class, kind of hanging out, trying to get things by, I started sitting up at the front, especially when I was in college. It's like, this is here for me. And so I'd be up at front so I could ask questions, so I could be participating and so forth. And autonomy, very much so. Once I was a little shy at first, again, the introvert parts of me wanting to hold back, but turning on the camera, asking questions, jumping out, I got so much more out of the full-on participation. The more I put into it, much more I got out of it. It was definitely a dynamic, an amplification dynamic that having the access to Rich is amazing as well. The gentleman has a lot of knowledge, and it's fun to pick his brain about things that kind of, I could almost be like the class heckler. I had those every once in a while with some of those engineering classes I was teaching, where they'd say, "Hey, what about this?" Try to stump the teacher kind of stuff. And I learned early to not let them derail me and write it up on the board, and would come back to it if we had time. And Rich is got a lot of knowledge, especially when you start getting into all the research he's been doing. He pulls up the brain and starts getting into the aspects of things that he's choreographed, recorded, so that you can go back and show these links. So
Right.
very dynamic and very, very, the rabbit holes, if you want to go down them, you may not be the only one. So that's
Right.
something else that was really cool about autonomy was, if you wanted to do something, one thing to help is you put it out there. Right now we're using Circle. We've used several different platforms over the years that I've been doing this now. And posting a note in Circle saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting into this." And I'll get a bunch of, "Hey, I was interested in that too," or "I've been doing that already. Check out the," and so it's a synergy. It's another case where the whole is so much greater than the sum of the individual parts. What people are bringing to it, things that I didn't even think about, just, or aspects of something I thought I had this, and then somebody opens my eyes to something I'd completely missed. Very cool. Very it accelerates the growth.
Yeah.
And it really pushed me to be there, be even better at it. Being not being the perfectionist, because that's been an issue for me sometimes. That's the what is it? Perfection is the enemy of done. Not getting it out there.
Perfection is the enemy of good.
Yeah.
It just
Or
needs to
just
be.
even finishing,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. It just needs to be good. It can be
Yeah.
even great, but nothing's ever going to be perfect.
No, we're always a work in progress. And I try to remind myself that don't judge myself too harshly. Keep working at it. And it's, is it the four agreements? Um, you know, be impeccable with your word, but do your best. I think that was number 2. I'm not sure. I've forgotten now, but it's just, your best may change from time to time, but autonomy kind of drew that out of me and had me striving for even higher levels. It's a lot of fun. I mean, the
Oh, yeah.
classes were fun, but even more so, the ongoing engagement is fun. And there's so many new vistas. There's so many other things that are tantalizing hanging out there that I could go down and do. I already had the tech background, so that helped. But being able to just slice and dice audio and video and so forth, a number of things that definitely lent themselves. And there's a lot of practice, especially with the interviews and doing the classes when we do the breakout groups.
Yeah.
It gives a chance to I found that I was connecting with people. It's having good solid people in that group. And again, it's a self-selecting group. This is people that choose to do this usually have a number of things that are similar to each other. We've got a lot of differences, so there's still going to be a lot of surprises and interesting things that I never knew that I get introduced to. But there's also a lot of traits that seem to repeat over and over. And the integrity and the communication, the desire to help others, that's a big one in a lot of people. Um, it's a very comforting environment that I felt safe to open up and get involved with people. And like I said, a lot of ad hoc groups spun out of that. We'd end up creating groups, special purpose things that would have their specific lifespan or might still be ongoing.
Yeah, I mean the autonomy community, there's people in there that are very eager and very hungry to help and to share what they know. And to, if like, I always like to say that, you pose a question in the forum there, and before you know it, you got 10 or 12 people looking to help you find an answer. And it's just such a welcoming and warm community to be a part of, to be around so many people. And the vetting process for getting into autonomy is to thank for that, because you mentioned something about the general attitude of the group. And like, well, you don't get through if you're not somebody who understands integrity, wants to have self-improvement, wants to use some better critical thinking, and wants to break free from maybe some sort of like a obstacle or boundary that was in front of you beforehand. And that's what we learn throughout autonomy. Like, it's, what is it, the Swiss Army knife for life, like these types of things, like, that we try to uh, take away from the course. The lifetime enrollment is such, like, we talked about it, I think, last time on Quest, where the lifetime enrollment is such like a anxiety breaker, where you don't have to worry. You're not like meeting a deadline. There's not, like, it's voluntary interaction. And actually, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because you mentioned something about it took that you were hesitant to get on camera and to start asking questions. How, after the initial, like, breaking through that type of introversion, how easy was it to continuously, like, were you a week after week guy that, like, oh, I did it once or twice, wow, this was a lot easier than I thought, and then next thing you know, here's Mark every week? Like, is that accurate to describe? And how, like, how did you overcome that? Like, what was the moment you knew that it was a, I hate to use the term, but a safe space, like a, like, where, oh, we're all friends here type of thing?
The judgment about it feeling safe probably came just after the first interaction, and not not having what might be typical on many of the internet platforms, social platforms these days, where people are looking to win something, or be better than or best. So that's not what the group, each of the groups that I was in, and I would get people from all over the world. First the season I joined, and then as subsequent seasons as I attended, I'd drop in and out, and the people would come up with a lot of different backgrounds, but we're all striving to better ourselves. We're all striving to learn. We're all in it for ourselves to get better. But as I said, there also seems to be a large component of people who assist others, or at least are thinking of others. One of the things that we go through in the beginning is the personality traits that tend to be common. And I noticed that there's definitely patterns that a lot of the people who choose to be in autonomy, tend to fit a couple of key psychological profiles frequently. And it's the type that help and nurture each other. So the safe space was, after the first one, it was kind of the I felt comfortable with that. It's kind of like, I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you ever went through this, but when I was that first dance, once I got myself out there to start dancing, then I wanted to dance the rest of the night. It's like I could, you had, can I keep playing? Can we keep
Yeah.
going?
Yeah, it's like
So
karaoke when we were at Pork Fest this last year. It's like the first song you sing is like, oh, that's the nerve-wracking one. And then you can't, like, I know he's not here right now, but we couldn't get Richard Grove off the microphone at Pork Fest during karaoke. And he'll tell you, like, he saw a couple people go and he's like, well, now I can't be upstaged. I gotta go and do karaoke now. I gotta be brave. And he went up and he did it. And he was just constantly throughout the whole week, just on that microphone singing songs and having fun. And it's just like that.
yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, the whole ethos, be excellent to each other, that's stressed, and no masters, no slaves. We're not, the people who choose tend to be those who, again, are supportive, those
Yeah.
who aren't there to satisfy only their own ego and be damned to everybody else. It's more of a camaraderie of let's all go there. There was a saying, I think it was T. Harv Eker. It's if you want to go, what was it? If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And it's the synergy, the group dynamics that really enhanced so much more, brought so much more out of it. And again, as I said, I know so little, and I'm reminded when people bring things up that I hadn't even thought about. There was an exercise with another one. I'm very because of the computer background, tech background, and so forth. I tend to be very literary based, analytical, list based, and so forth. But then there are other people saying this doesn't work for me, and I had to stretch to try to get my ideas across and think about some of the other modalities of communication. People who might go at a slower pace, who are more maybe sensorium, who feel things, watching the language of listening for key words that people who say, I see what you're saying, then might be more the visual person who's a faster pace. I hear what you're saying tends to be the people who are audio based. But then do
Yeah.
you feel, I feel how that feel. Those are the people who are deeper thinkers maybe, or they're running a little bit slower than the faster paced visual person, but there's a depth there. There's a deepness there. So everybody has these values, and it helped me learn how to express things, maybe using color, using shapes, using feelings, using sensoria that I don't normally go to, in order to reach different parts of an audience, or different people that I'm talking to, whether it's one-on-one or one with a group or one with many people. It's finding those different ways of getting across the same ideas, but in ways that other people may understand better than some of the other modalities.
What has life been like for you, like post graduation, and what have you been able to take away from autonomy and really apply to your life, and how has it really changed your general, your day-to-day life and maybe your professional life?
Well, I do check in daily with
Hmm.
some of the past autonomy students, and so forth. So there's a communication channel that's always there. Somebody's up, you know. I mean,
Right.
it's one of the neat things about having people from all over the world is that it doesn't depend on whether I'm only in the Pacific time zone. I can talk to people almost whenever,
Yeah.
or leave a message, and somebody gets back to me and we figure out a good time using Calendly or whatever it might be to arrange a time that we can communicate, get together if it needs to be back and forth real time. Other times it's just text conversations, which are fine too for some things. Um, Coming out of it, it was also a reminder. I'd read David Allen's book, Getting Things Done,
Yeah.
back. Rich's methods on time management, organizational skills were definitely got me to focus again on those and to make them much more front and pivot. Most of the days I'll start out with, okay, what things are getting done this week? What's my hard landscape
Mm.
on my calendar? Things that I committed to, and what are those deadlines? And that's what starts out my agenda for the week. And then I backfill in the things that I hope to get done, as I make commitments, so it's a better tracking system of keeping track, of what I'm doing. And I'd learned on my own to make sure and mix in the personal things, the things that I have outside of my work life. I was a workaholic for quite a while. That's what helped build the business at first. But then I needed to transition to something more healthy and make sure that my marriage stayed alive and well, and that we renewed that and kept moving that forward. My friendships, my familial, my family connections, and so forth. My mother-in-law now lives with us on our property. And I've gotten my mother moved in to the same town, so I can keep a closer eye on her as she's slowly getting up there. And so coming out of autonomy, it sharpened a lot of the different things that I'd already found in some cases. And then there have been things that Rich had opened my eyes to that it wasn't even aware of existed. He also explained a few things, like the side of sales, why some of it felt so cringy that I couldn't do. And he uh, elucidated a lot of some of those techniques, that are very helpful. I've found, that there's a number of people who think sales is a bad word. But when we talk about a movie that we thought was just so cool and so awesome, you've got to see this. You're doing sales, or when we're trying to get a job, we're doing sales. We're selling ourselves, So, and there were a number of techniques that Rich brought forth that I hadn't thought of that have improved some of my, for example, the estimates, the bids that I put out with my clients. I've learned some of the human psychology, of little tricks to do, like having three options, for somebody to choose from. It gives them the understanding that they're not locked into just the one thing I say and they don't know if it's the right thing. They trust me mostly. Well, by presenting options, it gives them a chance to say, here's what, why I'm putting these here for you and where they're at, and you can pick which one you think is best for what you're doing. So different stratagems that some either I got direct or that I interpreted from some of the material that Rich was introducing us to.
Awesome.
So that the support with the community, as I said, I keep coming back to that. The community is awesome. I originally was attracted because of the trivium. I've been continuing to study that and explore that, and look forward to now applying it eventually to the quadrivium, the part of the classical education that is really not easily out there anymore. It's been removed from so many schools, and it's a method. The trivium is how to think, not what to think, how to think, and how to remove contradiction, how to come to what's real. And that's been very, very helpful.
Oh, for sure, dude.
The ongoing material after autonomy is huge.
Dude, we could talk all night about the trivium, but we don't have all night.
Nope.
So I'd like to shift gears and start to bring in some students and other graduates that are in the meeting. But first, I want to make sure that we got this clip in because you had some really nice things to say a couple weeks back when we were all together watching Richard and Phoenix be, the main attractions to Quest. And I have this clip here that I'd like to play for everybody. It's about 5 minutes long, and we'll see you on the other side for everyone's chance to talk to Mark themselves.
So let's throw it over to autonomy. I think it was season 8 or 9 students, season 5 for Mr. Mark Raintree. What do you got for us, Mark?
Good to see you gentlemen again, and ladies. Just wanted to throw something out for Stefana as well. Following up on what Jill was saying, my family considers me an entrepreneur. I've been self-employed, my own business I built.
You're a serial entrepreneur, bro.
Kinda. Yeah, I've got multiple businesses going, and more than 30 years now. I've got grandkids who don't live with us, so I'm very careful about what kind of questioning authority type of stuff that I introduce them to, because I don't want them living through hell and not having the support of me in the back. If I were homeschooling them, totally different. I'd be going quite a bit different. But I would encourage Stefana to consider it. The forever access to it is important. The people that I've met, Richard, you brought so much information to me. There's a number of things I knew. I've been doing this for a while, but there's so much more that you bring it to, and it's a whole nother level. And I have to, full disclosure, I'm the kind of guy that listens to things over and over again, because you never step in the same river twice. I'm frequently getting a new lesson that I wasn't really getting before. And I think the mother-son dynamic there would be very synergistic. I think that there would be a lot more growing and learning for both of the two in that situation, even for your other son as well, who might not be in the group. There's a lot going on there. Partner, spouses, they all pick it up. So I was attracted by the trivium, the ability to a proper way of thinking, of being able to reduce contradiction and come out with truth, come out with something that's real that I can test, that can prove, because that's what I do for a living in my other jobs and so forth. So I would encourage it. And the community, I've got somebody in Germany I check in with weekly that's an autonomy grad. I've got people that I check in daily with that are autonomy grads. And it's not an echo chamber. It's more of a, hey, I'm thinking about this. And people who question me on my stuff. Mark, are you thinking about, have you considered this? Or, oh, this is coming up for you again. You might want to be looking at this. Well, you're a pack rat. Ah, what are you holding on to there, son? So there's a whole lot of calling me to my things from the group as well. So I not only did season 5 in kind of an accelerated fashion, I did season 6 again, and then periodically I go back through. There's a plethora of material. Badneric, going through the law stuff, going through. There's so much material, so many things. The permaculture. I've actually chatted with the wonderful lady who brought us the permaculture information, and I've been practicing. Join one of our permaculture groups. There's just so much. And
Melissa is a associate producer on the Ultimate History Lesson. Melissa Miles, who did that permaculture course.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, she's given me a shot in the arm, and I've actually got a raised bed garden going and a number of things happening. And I've been I even brought it to the local flower horticulture group that we're members of to get them to thinking about taking care of the earth. One of my great clients is a regenerative dairy farm that I've got a relationship set up with. I get all kinds of dairy products and they get computer stuff working, and so it's a wonderful situation. But I would just highly recommend it, Stefana. Once I talked to Lisa, I realized, I was pretty sure I was going to do it when I heard you, Richard, speaking at, I think it was D3, when you were introducing the whole concept of the trivium. And I was like, I want to learn that. And then she made it was clear. It's like, yeah, why not right now? And then keep coming back to it. For me, I dip back in periodically. So I would encourage it. That's my 2 cents.
Great to see you, Mark.
Whoops, cut it off like 3 seconds too soon. My bad. But yeah, man. All right. So, Mark Raintree, it's great getting to know you a little bit better, buddy. And so I'd like to invite people to come off mute and to ask any questions that they may have for you. Usually takes a minute to get somebody to. All right. So in the meantime, just for context, that clip was Mark's response to a woman that was in the audience a couple weeks back, and she was wondering about if whether or not autonomy would be right for her 18-year-old son, and I believe he was 18, but nonetheless, that was Mark's answer to that, and what an answer indeed. So.
Yeah, I think she was doing homeschooling.
Yeah,
so she was directing it, and I just thought, wow, that would be such a great fit. That's why I brought up my grandkids. If I were directly involved in the ongoing day by day homeschooling and being there to answer questions that hopefully they would start coming up with, that's the whole thing, is that a lot of this sparks questions.
I'm wondering how you took the things that you learned in autonomy and translated that into your professional life, because you were at such an advanced point. But I see that the social aspect of it and the engagement and having the community was, so brilliant for you to be able to find in life. But I'm wondering about putting the skills into practice in your work. Would you tell me about that?
I probably listen more than I did before. And Rich has a number of great sayings. One of them is, what does done right look like? And so something along that concept of working with some of my clients of that, like I've got a meeting this Tuesday. They want to add the ability to have a calendar that's available online in the cloud. And so that sets off my thinking process of, why are they asking for that? They've got a calendaring system now, so therefore there must be something missing, or some new ability that they'd like to have happen, or some negative that they're trying to get away from with the existing system. So I started asking questions of them, and this is a methodology that Rich had espoused and talked about, of a good technique for helping people find solutions is problem solving, listening, asking questions, getting the person to think it through, and exploring it with them. So it was definitely a set of techniques that Rich had introduced me to much more thoroughly and with different aspects of it that I use ongoing now.
You know, it all sounds so simple when we describe it, right? But but learning it and being able to practice it and be mentored in it, it's another facet of learning. You can't just read it in a book and then suddenly you have those skills. Um, for me at least, you know, it's the being able to practice them in these dojos and with other people and with Richard that you know you get that finesse and then you step out into the world, and I can see that from what you're telling me. That's an exact application of that.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. He mentions a number of times, and some of the material he brings in mentions a number of times the value to be found in what we call failure at times. And I think there's an aphorism that says failure is not really failure if you learn something from it. And that's part of what he's teaching as well, that I got out of autonomy. There's kind of a lesson that I already had a good instinctive of. The whole Silicon Valley ethos is fail hard, fail fast, but not everybody understands why. You know, in the VC world, they're, from what I've read, it sounds like they're looking for entrepreneurs, so people who are starting companies who failed a lot, because then at least they don't have to go through those financially with them. That maybe now they'll have the unicorn. Who knows? But it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to if we learn from them, then maybe they're not really failures. You know, they're different avenues that we didn't have covered or didn't realize or hadn't thought of. What was it Edison said when the reporter asked him? I've heard this told many different ways, but one of the ones I had was, you know, the reporter said, "You failed 9,000 times to make a light bulb." You know, and he looked at him incredulously, said, "I've not failed once. 9,000 times I've learned what does not work."
Mm-hmm.
And it's an optimism. It's a positive thinking of it, of what did I learn from that? And course correction. That's not where I wanted to end up. You know, so how do I correct this to get towards what I think success is? Checking in with the other side. Is this really what success is for both, you know, for both of us? Is this what we're after? Is this the true target? The communication is key as well. I can't tell you how many times I feel like I'm repeating myself too much, and just listening to me recorded here, I see there's a number of things I use over and over again. But even in something as simple, you said, Leah, like the communication of confirming the appointment, the date, the hour, the day, and so forth. Again, there's a number of times I'll have people, "Oh, I thought it was going to be," you know, and that was going to be a failure. And just by repeating myself, of confirming that we've agreed on this and getting the correct, you know, response from the other side, has saved a number of people, from, including myself, from having our time wasted. You know, where I show up and they're not there, they show up, I'm not there. You know, those would be bad situations. So it's a number of the processes that I learned from that I now use to make things much more successful, that happen with a much higher probability. Things still go wrong. Things still go out the window. But it's, you know, that's what Rich says, is triggering our complexity. That's how we learn, okay, what am I getting out of this? How do I course correct for that? How do I get back to, this is the desired outcome? As my father said, when I task something to somebody else, they may not do it my way, but as long as it gets done, that may be good enough. Depends on what the final is. There's some things, no, it's got to be done a certain way, but for a lot, it doesn't. And so having that flexibility definitely is a help. And that's something else that I think came out of autonomy as well, besides my father.
Failing forward, I think, is the term Richard uses so often, right? And it's the incubator, that you have the safety of the incubator to hash that all out and to come back to and say, okay, this is what happened, right? Okay, well, here, let's, everybody as a team, let's bring in resources for you, right? That's, to me, masterful, watching the resources pull together when somebody puts up their hand. And you mentioned that earlier, which is quite brilliant. But hey, when are you going to do a class or something in autonomy? Because man, I want to be in your class.
Actually, I've put together course already. I recorded the first group of classes. Basically, it was, what's the title was, how to take control of your own paycheck by starting and operating your own IT business.
Wow.
And it was, I had focused originally on the technical side of it. You know, I had module 1 was on hardware, module 2 is on software. But then thanks to autonomy, I fleshed out module 3 and 4. 3 was more in the business itself, how to the different types of entities one could choose, the different method of doing marketing or surveys, finding out is, you know, price checking, finding out what are the rates appropriate here, what are different types of restrictions that might be in your area, finding out different ways of mitigating risk. You know, is there like an insurance policy that might be able to offset something that you think might be a liability you're not willing to assume yourself? So a lot of the different business practices. And then the 4th is more personal skills and practices that help a business succeed. And that comes back to time management, communications, showing up when you say you're going to show up, the integrity of keeping your word. If you can't keep the promise, don't make the promise. If you've made the promise and you can't keep it, renegotiate. Money management is something that I've been studying for a long time. And you know, there are classes, there are lessons there that I wished I'd learned before I accepted my first dollar in a paycheck. That, you know, by 30, I would have probably, if I'd done it, I would have been at that point independently, you know, financially independent, and then working more for the fun of it and to bring others along, rather than I've got liabilities that I need to pay off or whatever along that line. So that's my first idea at a group of classes. I did a bunch of recordings. I had a paying student already, but unfortunately my tech failed. I hadn't checked the audio properly with the camera I was using.
Oh,
So it
man.
has this loud hum the whole time. So I got to recut those.
Yeah, I feel you. Hey, well, thank you so much, Mark. I'm sure that other people would like to ask you questions as well, because but I'm looking forward to speaking with you more.
Thanks, Leah.
Cool. Don't be shy, guys. You know what? Whatever you're thinking, it's important. All right.
Mark, I have a question as to how did autonomy change your computer business? How did it change maybe the focus of the people that you employed, and maybe the way that you actually operated? Does it help you to have more insight into the industry itself?
I'd say, well, my wife and I came up with the name of Raintree Solutions for the business because we realized that it wasn't so much the technology that we were helping with, it was the fact that we're solving problems, that we're providing solutions to people. So I think with autonomy, with some of the lessons that I learned from Rich and from the materials that he provides, and so listening to some of the other entrepreneurs and so forth, it was more focusing on the outcome of what it's going to be like for that person. And I might not even be the right fit for them, but what would be the best ideal outcome for that person? And can we get there? Is there a path to get there? And can we create it? That kind of all encompassing thinking I hadn't really been pushing or hadn't really been focusing on so much. With autonomy, it was more like when you have if you're working for someone else, one of the lessons that I learned from autonomy that I hadn't thought of before was, how do I make this even better? How do I make my business that I'm working for, the business I'm helping with, how do I help them get even better? Not just what do I do for my job, but what's the end goal? What are the key things here? Where can I, it's not even been asked of me, but maybe I can assist with that, or I can offer some information, without jumping in and taking over. How can I help be part of that solution, or bring something to maybe management that they had not been thinking of? I do that now with my clients of ask them, if I hear things like, if I hear something that's missing, or areas that, I say, have you thought about X or Y or Z, or is this going to, we have this history over here and we had this thing that didn't work out so well. So that's why we went this way. So your course changed. Does that take us back into that, or are we going to do it in a way that's going to be beneficial for your company? And so it's I think one of the things that helped with the autonomy lessons was the overall, the more general thinking rather than specific task oriented. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
I think it does. I mean, having lived in Silicon Valley myself, I realized that a lot of people build their businesses to be very task oriented, but not really having great skill at working with customers. It's almost as if there's like two different languages being spoken for one. And the other portion of it is that a lot of the people don't quite understand, unless you're really good at pinpointing the actual task that needs to be done, what that outcome should really look like, which I think takes a little bit of imagination and creativity that I think is kind of hard for sales, to actually capture that sometimes. And so you're kind of put into this weird position. You just can't hire any salesperson because they might sell your customer on something that you actually don't do or can't do, or it's not the right thing. It's not a good fit. And deciphering that is kind of an art in itself.
It is. And there's also the other side of, I was on a ECO, an engineering change committee, for a while, from the tech support side of things at one of the companies that I worked for there. And the sales manager took me aside because I was stopping the whole process. They were about to introduce a product, a change to a product that I knew was going to bring a bunch of returns in through the tech support department. And that makes our life hell. And that was what I thought was my role of being on that ECO committee. And the sales division manager, basically of sales, said, Mark, I understand where you're coming from, but if we can't ship, we close the doors. And that was a hard lesson. Is it that sometimes we do have to compromise for a period of time to be in there long enough to make it right, or to improve as you go forward, to realize that, yeah, we might stumble, but as long as we keep going and looking for the proper path, maybe we'll get back onto the solid ground again. So having sales sell something that we can't do, I've been there, done that. That's something else also that is exploring what's this really going to look like, or how's this really going to impact, and I'll bring business owners' attention to it. Finding the key people that are making the decisions is helpful. That's who you really want to have when you're negotiating the buy-in, to make sure that this is going to happen, but also reminding them that maybe technology is not the answer. There's been a number of times where people ask me for new security systems or something to keep people from doing this. And I point out that policy is going to be just as strong, if not stronger, than technology. I can only go so far with technology, but if the company doesn't have the culture, the policy to have a direct direction going forward, and the correction methods, of if there's going to be a punishment, if you say you're going to punish, then you got to punish. You can't do the empty threats either, or that you're not taken serious. Or a business owner not realizing this could actually hurt them and might actually have them jeopardize their business, their place in the market. There's a number of aspects there to work on, and communication is key. And a lot of the skills that I got out of autonomy may help. A lot of times it's just with a question scenario, the question and answering, getting them to answer, and maybe leading them through something you might see that they haven't seen yet. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome.
With all the ethical sales training that we get through autonomy, would you say that in a way it's also helped you fine tune your BS meter as well. Like when somebody's trying to sell you something unethically, are you able to kind of pick up on that a whole lot easier these days?
I definitely had a feel for it earlier. I sold ski bindings for a couple of summers. I've never skied in my life. But they told the people who were introducing me to it, I got hired through a job shop, and this is before I worked for those companies. I think I was already in the Santa Clara, Santa Cruz area. So it was in Moscone Center in San Francisco, so forth. And they explained that the weight of the person, the agility of the person skiing, and so forth, help dictate which bindings, how strong, how stiff the bindings should be on skis. Well, I'd never, okay, that makes sense. It was like at the third time that I'd worked for them, and they came back and said, we're running low on this, push these more. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Up went the red flags. I don't, I'm not going to push somebody into the wrong product. That doesn't feel good to me. And I think autonomy helped clarify and sharpen what some of those methodologies might be. And so it doesn't take me necessarily getting that icky feeling to say something's not right here. There's actually, I start recognizing some of the methods or some of the that's not a lane we want to go down. That's no. Let's approach it from here, because this is, I feel better with this. I can sleep at night saying this because it's true. I don't feel comfortable going this way. So I think some of the material that came out of autonomy was a lot of the different methods or some of the different schemes they're used, and it helps me recognize them faster than relying on the gut feeling.
Is there a particular instance where you can explain to us that like you saw this red flag coming and it could have affected one of your businesses or something, and you were like, nope, that's I know that, and you were able to kind of intellectually defend yourself out of the situation?
Maybe. I'd say more, I mean, just recently, there's certain people can give off different vibes. I was just having this conversation earlier today with a gentleman that I'd met earlier, a welder, and we were talking about body language, and that was something autonomy went over as well, about some of the watching the cues, watching the social cues. That's why coming off camera can be so mind expanding if you get involved with autonomy, because humans do a lot of recognition just watching eyebrows, watching how the mouth is formed, watching where the eyes go, and as well as body posture, defensiveness, or things that are much more open or different. Those are sub communications that we don't get texting. That's why one of the reasons emojis theoretically exist is to try to get across some kind of emotion, but even they don't work so well. You get the high-tech guys and it's like end of sarcasm. It's like, gee, I wished I'd known that before I saw the beginning of your rant. Not sure if that answers the question, but
well, yeah, generally, sure. I just, we talk about how autonomy is really good and helps us up our game with sales, at like in practicing ethical sales, through the integration exercises between the students and everything. And a couple of weeks back, I just thought to myself, something that doesn't get talked about enough is how it can actually, the education that we get in autonomy, we can actually apply that in a kind of like a self-defense type of way, where we can see these now that we know the ethical way to do it, we can see when it's not ethical and somebody's trying to pull one over on us, and we can say no thank you please to that a whole lot sooner, and maybe save ourselves a whole lot of headaches. And I was wondering, that's what inspired that question, because you're an accomplished man, and I was, hey, Mark's probably used this before or since he graduated.
There's a number of times that I've realized that the dollar's not worth it. And in fact, it's helped with some of my friendships. There's actually been several friends that have hired me to do work for them or something, and it starts getting weird. And I'll just, in two cases specifically, I can recall that I stopped and said, you know what? The friendship is more important. I don't want to do this work. If this is not going to work out, I'd rather be friends with you, and I'll happily find somebody else to do this for you. because it's again the value system of what's important, and that sense, the spidey sense of, wait a minute, this is starting to feel weird, or I'm hearing some of the clues that I learned about that this is not on the up and up, or something's being masked over or being hidden that I don't think that's going to serve us well. So yeah, there's been a few times with friends, and then a few times in business where it's like, I don't think I'm a good fit for you.
Yeah.
You know, I've turned down work when times with I was a workaholic for a while. I overexpanded. I had too much. I had the luxury of being able to turn away work for a while. And that actually ended up serving me well later on when the values became more important,
Right.
when the ethics became even more upfront for me, and that I like sleeping well at night. I like knowing I've done my best. Even if tomorrow I can do better, today I did the best I could today.
Was there
So-
like a scarcity mindset with, like, did you have any sort of scarcity mindset before autonomy? Like, does that play into a little bit of what you just described of like being able to say no, and not just like what I was talking about before, but what about whole scarcity versus abundance? How does that affect you?
That's a tightrope I still walk. That's a
Okay.
lesson I continue to work at for me, is getting myself out of scarcity. It can be mind-blowing to me. It has been mind-blowing to me the few times that I've realized that, I forgot who it was Carlos Castaneda or somebody else, the thinking, nothing's changed except what went on in here between me having a fabulous day and me having a not very good day, and most of it's up here. So being on guard for that, to hopefully recognize some of those signs and say, I need to take a walk. You know, it is let's have this pause for now. I'll come back to you. I'm not giving up. I'm not going away permanently, but I need to take a break. You know, that the pause, the cessation for a while, for a sanity check. You know, and whether I'm gonna use the lifeline, you know, call a friend, go to autonomy group, check in with somebody, whatever it might be, or like I said, maybe stretch my long muscles and let something mull around. So there's been a number of times in the business world as well as the personal world that those will come up. Not sure I'm answering your question correctly, but in that general vibe, I think.
No, you've answered it. You know, it tends to be the people that are in a scarcity mindset act rather impulsively, and it sounds to me like you've been able to kind of do a little bit of a more of like a step back approach to certain things, and maybe put yourself in check a little bit better, have a little bit more resources at your disposal to like kind of allow yourself to take a deep breath and to step back from a situation, because you know now you can, you know, you've learned a little bit more about like yourself. And that's another thing about autonomy. It's not just sales. It's like a deep look within, and you know, like what is within yourself and what can you bring out of yourself. You know, I mean, the course is called autonomy for a reason. It teaches you how to live up to that notion of living autonomously. If it's not about sales and getting a new job or getting a raise at the job you already have or going into work for yourself and building your client list, it's about how do you improve within, so that way you can carry yourself better into the future.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I
there's a
definitely
huge aspect of the course that is all about that. It's life skills that we should have been taught a long time ago, but now we're playing like this catch up game, you know, and that's okay. That's okay. And the people that join autonomy are the ones that are saying that, you know, I'm not happy with the status quo. I want to outgrow that. I want to be better. I want to have more. I want to escape the scarcity mindset. I want to be able to live autonomously the best that I can, you know, and like that's what it's all about. So, you know,
Yeah, definitely agree on those points. And the building of our character,
Yeah.
Socrates, the examine life. Yeah, it's a I think that's where we get the sense of satisfaction, if we can experience it, is comparing ourselves to ourselves, not to each other, but to who I was yesterday or last year or whatever. And that can be a healthy of seeing that progress and seeing,
Yeah.
you know, or not seeing the progress and saying, what's up with this? Am I doing something that's like a self-sabotage here?
Right.
What's, you know, whatever it might be.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Oh, Chuck, you're unmuted, buddy. How's it going?
Great. I'm a new student. I just signed up last week or so, and I do have a question, but I have to explain something first before I ask the question. Well, I could just ask the question straight up before explaining everything, which would be simpler, I guess. How much do you guys, well, maybe not personally, you guys, but my question is, how much can we trust in the universe to help us for the right things to happen for us? Because you might notice my environment here. I'm in a truck. I'm a truck driver, and I've been alone in a truck for almost a quarter of a century, driving a truck across the United States, because I can't get along with people and I don't trust people. And if I could live in a cave by myself in the wilderness, that's what I would have done with my life. But instead of that, I ended up driving a truck. And so I know I got to get out of this because it's taking up like 70 hours a week of my time. And if I'm ever going to do anything good in the world, which I do really want to, I've got to get out of this. But it's a really steady income all year long. Whereas in the past, I did construction work and window cleaning, and that's very seasonal, and you don't get 40 hours a week every week, you know. But I jumped from that uncertain income to a steady income, and I was stuck with it now for almost a quarter of a century. But now I got to move past this so I can become a podcaster and do what I'm supposed to be doing. But it's just like I have to hope to God that I'm going to get enough donations to survive. And I just am terrified of making that leap. So I don't know if you can answer that question or not. Should I be able to trust in the universe to provide that if my heart is in the right place? Or do I have to be willing to risk homelessness? You know?
Deep set of questions.
Yeah.
For me personally, what I found is, and this is kind of what I was kind of hinting toward in the most recent statement I was making. It's kind of like that where what's a combination of where attention goes, energy flows kind of thing. I think that was a Tony Robbins thing that turns out to be true. Whatever I focus on is what I tend to manifest, what I tend to make happen, what I tend to push things into. And that was one of the reasons I learned early to try to ask myself, what are my goals going forward? Because if I'd at least thought about what was a direction I wanted to end up in, then as decisions kept coming up in life, I could evaluate, would it help me get towards where I want to go in the long run, rather than ending me off in this cul-de-sac over here. So as far as trusting in the universe, I mean, that's a big personal faith kind of thing.
Yeah.
What I was getting to is that so much is in here, and that I can make a happy day for myself by focusing on the more positive things that are going my way, rather than me centering on all the things that are going wrong, or all the things that. It's a combination of that, but also the realism of, why am I feeling so risky? Why am I feeling so, what's you're pointing out the difference between the steady income versus the seasonal unsteady income, periodic income. It's that that starts me asking, okay, what risks are you facing? I mean, I don't want to get into the personal stuff here, but the conversation would go along the lines of, why am I feeling that way? What's making me, can I reduce those at all? So it wouldn't matter so much whether I've got a steady income and something I'm not so happy with, or an unsteady income and something it was easier with. Is that you're having a hard time getting along with people? Is that what I remember you saying also, as well as you were choosing this to be more by yourself?
Yes.
Okay. So that's another avenue to explore what, and again, this is just a very short time, but it's like, what's going on there that I'm I don't know. I can only talk about me. And one of the things that I've, some of the bigger lessons that have been hard have been the opening up and being willing to be vulnerable.
Willing to be
vulnerable.
Yeah.
Willing to expose parts of me that normally, I might want to protect, or that I'll still survive if suffering the slings and arrows, as it were. With my relationship, that was a big deal, was the commitment, the promise that it doesn't matter how bad things get, we're going to stay. It's going to, this, you just depend on it. It was a baseline. And then both of us started feeling better about other risks that we were taking. Once we acknowledged the baseline was there, we were going to fight to keep that baseline there. For me, it was having to stop being such a workaholic, but that was my own personal journey. I always put clients first. I was putting family second, third, fourth. And I had to reverse that because I realized it was so much more important to me and my family. So it sounds like there's a number of questions there that you could, might benefit you taking a look into. I'm glad you signed up with Autonomy as far as an organizational thing going, and a additional skill set method. There's a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of different areas. Podcasting can be one of them. In fact, there's going to be a lot of chances for you to practice and for you to get some hands-on with that in Autonomy. I think there's probably might still be a do it live kind of thing that's a whole lot of fun. And it's as I said it before, Rich says it a lot, triggering your complexity. It's when things come up, it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to deal with that? But it's learning that, you know what, an answer is going to show up. I may not know it yet, but I know the direction I'm heading. And so I'm just going to keep going here. I'm going to try to protect myself from some of these side things, but I'm not also going to let myself wander off. I'm going to keep nudging myself, course correcting back again.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
There's a lot there for you. That's quite a challenge. So
Yeah.
good for you. I think there's going to be a number of different resources, and for you looking at what you're wanting to head into, what you're doing, what's worked for you so far, but there may be more things that you're not even aware of that are going to show up that may also work for you.
I mean, just in Autonomy, there's the pro media course as well. So like, there's a ton of learning to be done within that can help you be on the up and up with all the technological skills you'll need to kind of head off a podcast, And as far as like the universe, like taking care of things for you, well, the universe is going to respect you having the willpower to take care of yourself. And if you're doing the right thing, the right things will happen. Now, that's not just some catchphrase to say. It's like, well, no, man, if you're going along your life and you're living, your life and not harming anybody, and you're going down the path, that you're supposed to be going down, then the right things will happen, and, I could tell that you're in a sleeper cab, by the way.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, I said I could tell you're in a sleeper cab, and
Yeah,
I was just saying, did you hear the other bit that I said?
Yes.
Right. Cool.
The universe. If you're doing, I just believe, I feel it in my bones, and that if you're doing the right thing, I mean, if there is meaning in the universe, then anybody who's really trying to do the right thing, even if I'm wrong, I'm still gonna get some kind of support, from God or the universe.
Right.
I mean, how else can we possibly ever attain freedom if that isn't available to us,
Well, you're
You know,
taking you're taking just the right steps, man. You know, you're here, you're enrolled. That's what you said, right? You're enrolled.
Yeah.
Well, then you're already on the right path to like taking taking the bull by the horns and really just like carving your own path in life. So, you know, just stay with it, and I can't wait to see you in the forum.
Well, thanks a lot.
hey Chuck, how are you? It's been a
Hey,
minute.
hey, Leah, how are you?
Good to see you. Gosh,
You
it's
too.
been forever.
Yep, yep.
So I want to just second what James said and maybe add a little bit of nuance to it. You know, the universe was designed to open doors for you and create synchronicities for you when you work in alignment with the generative principles of natural law. And you
Yeah,
know that. I mean, you've
yep,
learned that. You've been studying natural law for many years now,
yes.
right? But it's not going to give it to you, right? It's a matter of, you know, creating the world that you want to live in. And podcasting for donations, maybe that's, you know, very few people are going to make a living off of that, but you can podcast and create products and create offers and create exchanges of value. So you don't have to live on the idea of the goodness of the universe. You have to live on the idea of, I'm going to create that reality for myself by learning how to do it and doing it the right way, in a way that does build my life. And that's all available for you, right? That's all out there for you. And do you have to learn new skills? Yeah. Do you have to do things you've never done before? Yeah. You're going to have to do all that. But there's no better place to do it than with the support system that you have in autonomy. Because anything that you endeavor, you're going to find that support and you're going to find people to help you. And I'm going to be there also to help you as well. But I'm so happy to see you, and I'm so excited, and you know, I'm happy to be on the journey with you. And I can't wait to see what life holds for you when you do start to get resources, right? Skills and resources, that's what you're going to get. And so you came to the right place. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Leah. I appreciate that very
Cool.
much.
All right,
Okay.
we're approaching wrap up time, but Alex has his hand up. Let's go to Alex Belts. What's up, buddy?
Hey man, how
Hey.
you been?
Good, and you?
Yeah, good. Hey Chuck, I'm in season 12 with you, so I'm your classmate. It's
Awesome.
good to see you.
How
Yeah,
about
man.
you?
Yeah, so there's another truck driver. I was just thinking, I mean, all the things combined, I mean, have you thought about setting up a camera in your truck and just doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just talking while I'm
People,
driving. Yeah, I've thought
dude,
about.
honestly, like people, you kind of discount like we're our own worst critics, but people are actually looking for like vulnerable people, and a
Sure.
lot of people are feeling like you're feeling, like they're just like, this shit is crazy. I'm out of here, you know, disconnect, right?
Yeah,
And so people will relate to that. And not only that, I was thinking maybe you could set up two cameras. You could show one on the road and then one on yourself, and that'll keep animation going. So you get two different sensories at least, right? You'll get the
wow.
vocal and you'll get the visual, like we were talking about before with the different intake styles that people have for, getting information. And yeah, man, I was just thinking that, I mean, like, that's a solution that you could do right now while you're doing your job.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe it doesn't make you $1 million, but it's therapy for you. It's therapy for other people. You're doing something good for yourself and other people.
yeah,
It's basically free to
yeah,
do, you know, and then, you'll figure out like, you've been doing this for 25 years. You do have experience. We just tend to discount our own experience because we're so, used to, you know what I mean? It's all we know, right?
yeah,
But there's people that are thinking about being a truck driver and maybe they want to know what it's like after 25 years. Like there's probably a lot of pitfalls that you know about, how tactics, the ways to bill, I don't know if you work for yourself, how that works, or working for another company, or, there's a ton of information that you actually have
yeah,
that'll probably come out, especially on live streams. and your fans will actually give you content to come up with, right? They'll come up with questions that you haven't thought of. Be like, oh yeah, that's probably a good point. I can bring that up, right? So yeah, man,
Yeah,
that
that's
was
a
kind
great
of my
that's a great idea. Yeah. Because I just got to be doing my duty, taking care of my responsibility of putting, what I've learned out into to the masses as much as
Yep.
possible. And I've done a little bit of that, but not really at a very high level.
Yeah. And dude, there's a ton of lonely people. That's the real pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a ton of lonely people out there feeling disconnected, and there's, billions of people watching YouTube, and they're gonna relate to that. There is a market for you for sure of
Wow.
millions of people. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. It's just numbers, right?
Yeah, I'm not the only
Yep.
one.
Not even close.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
You probably pass them all day on the highway.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks,
So,
Alex.
all right, man. Yeah,
Cool.
have fun.
Thanks a lot.
Well,
And
everybody,
one
you just
more
got a
thing.
sneak peek at what happens in the forum, the creative problem solving skills that goes on between students and graduates on a daily basis within the Autonomy Forum. And I hope everybody can recognize that. And Mark, any final thoughts for the evening before we really wrap it up and get to the end here?
Not much other than it. Autonomy was an investment in myself that has paid off multiple times over, and in ways that I wasn't really expecting up front. So there was a lot to learn, a lot to experience, and there's so much, and it's ongoing. There's still more things being brought in, and I can redrop into the classes. I can check out some of the other material, but definitely an investment myself that I'm very happy I made.
Likewise, man. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for being here tonight. It's been a wonderful experience to get to know you, man. The other week when you and I were, answering questions, talking with Rich, I don't know, I just got a good feeling about you, and I was like, I kind of want to get to know that guy, and then just synchronistically, like the stars lined up, and here we are tonight, and I couldn't have been happier to participate this evening with you. Everybody, I would like to direct your attention to the chat and in the chat right now, you can find the links to book your blueprint strategy call. Don't hesitate, get in on that now, because in just about 3 weeks from now, less than 3 weeks from now, season 12 will be starting. Now, you can come in as you please, but there's nothing like joining as the right at the beginning of the season. Also, you can find a download for the 19 Essential Skills for Success, which is a free PDF. And you can find links in the chat at the moment that will lead you to each of the mindset lectures that Richard has given over the last couple of years. Also, I would like to bring your attention to an event coming up in just about 1 week, and it's called the VIP4 Summit. And that is going to be on, let's bring up the year right now. It's going to be on Saturday, September 7th, 2024 at, you can still see that, right? All right. So yes. Saturday, September 7th, 2024, it starts at 12 p.m. Eastern. And it's all this time VIP Summit 4 is the NWO Say No to the New World Order Agendas Exposed. A VIP, a very independent producer, panel of public speakers share their tools and philosophies, bringing NWO agendas into the light and providing solutions to deal with them. I'm sorry about the background noise. I have a family, so I guess we'll just have to deal with it. So, anyways, I don't know. Sorry, guys. So we can have the truth and clarity needed to fortify our lives and take rightful action. This time around, of course, it's hosted by Richard Grove. The panel of speakers is featuring Jay Dyer, Mark Passio, Sean Stone, John Bush, James Corbett, Charlie Robinson, Peter Duke, Justin Armand, Scott Armstrong, Matthew Raymer, Icaros, Pete Quinones, and Ken McCarthy. And I hope to see you guys there. It's going to be a fun event. And that's again on September 7th, starting at noon. And yeah, reserve a seat at universityofreason.com/autonomy-vip-summit-4. Yep.
That's actually a side we hadn't even talked about, is all the people who end up coming through Autonomy, guest speakers and so forth. Amazing folks that I've gotten to meet. You know, Melissa Miles was one, and some of the other folks who've spoken, John Bush and whatnot. There's been a lot of people. Excellent. Thanks, James. Thanks, Leah, and Jane, and Chuck, and Alex, and everyone else who joined us.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I absolutely loved it. Thank you. And James, great job. Nice having you here.
Thank you, Leah. And everybody tune in next week for the next edition of Autonomy Quest. Same time, same place. Check your inboxes for the invite link, and I hope to see you there.